us more about three intelligences?
Thank you for your question, Anton. It's a pretty deep question. In order to understand the composition of the human psyche, we have to first go back in time to the creation of life. And life starts at the cellular level with a single cell. A single cell that learns how to breathe, to live, to eat, and to reproduce. These cells then start forming clusters, and clusters form a unit of intelligence. The present human is actually made up of 3 units of these intelligences. There is the I think, the I feel, and the I desire. Thinking, feeling, desire. We always refer to them as the intellect, the emotion, and the sexual regions. So originally these 3 intelligences, which combined and dovetailed one into the other, formed these 3 intelligences that makes this complete human being. When they originally formed, they were the same. But as the human being evolved, they started modifying in different living beings, creating different phylums, classes, species. But if you look at all complex human beings, complex living beings, you will find that they all have the thought region, the feelings region, and the reproductive region. The head, the chest, and the groin. And it is so easy to differentiate these. But when you look at any one organism, you can go back to the time and there is a history written in the body, in time, that tells us where this all began and how this all started. So if you really look at the human body, the history is written in the skeletal body, in the bony structure, in the infrastructure of the human being. So if I look very carefully, my nose is for my intellect. What my breastbone or the sternum is for my emotions. And my pubic bone is for my sexuality. In the level of the intellect, I have cheeks. At the level of the emotions, I have breasts. At the level of the sexuality, I have butt cheeks, or buttocks as they call them. You can actually see these 3 intelligences coming out separately, and yet you can see them evolving, transforming, to combine to make this whole human being. The extensions of my sexuality are my legs. The extensions of my emotions are my hands. And the extensions of my intellect are my jaw. It is actually connected over here. This would be my emotional jaw. My temples are in the intellectual region, my shoulders are in the emotional region, and the hips are in the sexual region. Knowing this helps us to understand a lot about this human body, not in a single frame of the present, but in a complete frame of evolution from the beginning to where it is now. And hopefully, with this knowledge, from where it is now to where it can go in the future. But first, we have to break down the whole body. If you look at the neck is the pedestal on which the intellect is resting. This triangular region just below the abdomen, called the khanda in Sanskrit, is the pedestal on which the emotional region is rested. And the perineum, between the sexual organ and the anal knob, that region is the pedestal for the sexual region. As you keep exploring, you will find more and more corresponding similarities between these three intelligences. It is so easy to understand the three levels of intelligence that combine to make this body once we start dissecting it this way. The brains is the main organ of the intellect. The heart is the main organ of the emotions. And the sexual organs are the main organs of the sexuality. If I look at the structure of my head, then the region here where the cheeks are corresponding to this region here where the lungs are, and also to the abdominal, to the cavity in which rests the sexual region. And we know that the female has got a little bigger region in this groin area than the male. So there is a lot to learn from these three intelligences. These three intelligences make up who we really are, because at any given time we are either in the head, in the heart, or in the groin. And at a very subtle level, at the level of spirit, which we will take with us when we go out of this body, we also have a character determined by where we stay more. A person who stays more in the head is a very intellectual person, a person who is always questioning, always discerning, always trying to compare and contrast, to discern things. A person who spends more time in this region is a person who is always feeling things. He is not always rational in what he does, but he has an intuitive mind. He feels more. He senses more. He is more sensitive. He can love and hate and fill with anger more than normal people. And then the person who's more situated in the groin region is more desirous. He's always craving. He's always looking for sense gratification. He's always looking for sensual pleasure. He is more in touch with his animal nature. The yogis in the Himalayas called this tamasic region, which means the region of darkness. So in the region of darkness, there is not much that you can control. There is not much that you can see. You are controlled by the darkness. In the region of light, you have the ability to discern, you have the ability to learn, you have the ability to manipulate in the proper way and go in the proper direction. In the region of the heart, you are led. But if you are led by the proper powers, if you are led by the proper spiritual agencies, then you are in a better position than both the other regions. A channel works from the heart. But it is important to know what it is that he is channeling. It can be from the light, or it could be from other regions. So here we have these three intelligences governing us. And it is important for us to make sure that these three regions are balanced at all times. In order to understand these three regions better, let us look at other creatures that are very close to us as humans. We have dogs, cats, cows, goats, sheep, donkeys, horses, cattle. These are all mammals and have a lot in common with us, except that we stand on 2 legs while they stand on 4 legs. And why is that? If we look into our history, our skeletal body shows us that we were also once upon a time on 4 legs. And how do we know that? Look at any animal. It has a spine that is on the top and all the organs hanging under. And it has 4 legs, with the neck giving freedom to the head region. And that's the way it is. And if you really look at a human being, he looks exactly like a four-legged animal that has decided to come up on two legs. If he were to look at any structure that was built erect on one column, where would that column be? Wouldn't it be situated in the center of that structure? But look at the spine. The spine is not in the center of the body. It is more towards the back of the body. So if you were to crawl and get down on all fours, you would notice that you would be exactly like the other animals, with your spine on the top and your organs hanging from under. And that is why we have an anomaly in our human body, because we were originally made to be horizontal to the ground, not vertical. And this is also why, as we go older, the region of the neck and the region of the lower back start becoming weaker, and that is where most of the problems come to us in our older age, when we grow older. Older people have low back problems and they have neck problems because these regions are weak. Now, if I wanted to strengthen those regions, what would be the best thing for me to do? To go like that, like any other animal, and then relax. Because then I would be aligning the spine to become exactly as it was originally created to be. In a horizontal position, taking all the weight on it like clothes hanging from a clothesline. Understand this. We are looking into the history of ourselves, of our creation, because it teaches us a lot. The three intelligences, going back to them again. Our energy and our actions and whatever we do in this world today comes from one of these three zones. We will notice that men by nature, and this is a generalization, men by nature tend to come more from the head, and women by nature tend to come more from the heart. In relationships, they satisfy each other's need. So, a man will bring flowers to a woman and he'll be nice to her because he's looking forward to a relationship with her, and he goes to the approach what is the best for him, which is the heart of the woman. And the woman has to listen to man's reason and satisfy him that way. And that is how they make a couple. Of course, there are cases when you can have the other way around too. As we develop ourselves and understand ourselves in the rest of this course today, I will be giving you more and more examples. We will be exploring more regions in these three intelligences to understand ourselves. As I wind up this little course lecture for you, I want you to take your pens and papers and prepare yourselves to mark regions in these three parts of you that you find that are similar, that you find as similar. You will also be able to notice other things, the entrances from the top, the exits from the bottom, how they compare with each other. You'll be able to understand behaviors of people who are very intellectual, behaviors of people who are very sexual, behaviors of people who are very emotional. So when we now put ourselves into the workshop pattern, remember everything that I've said to you and more. And then we will proceed with what we are going to be proceeding with, what we are going to be doing for the rest of this lecture. Thank you very much. Let us meet in person now. Namaste.